Genesis chapter 11. There was a time when the entire earth spoke the same language. As people moved eastward, they came upon a plain in the land of Shinar and settled there. They said to each other, "Let's make bricks and bake them thoroughly." They used bricks instead of stones and tar for mortar. They also said, "Let's build a city with a tower that reaches to the heavens. Let's make a name for ourselves, so we won't be scattered over the face of the whole earth." Then the Eternal came down to see the city and the tower the people were building. He said, "One people, one language, this is only the beginning. Imagine what they will come up with next. Let's go down and confuse their language so they won't understand each other." So the Eternal scattered them from there across the whole world, and they stopped building the city. That's why it was called Babel, because it was there that the Eternal confused the language of the people and scattered them across the earth. This is the genealogy. When Shem was 100 years old, he fathered Arphaxad 2 years after the flood. After Arphaxad was born, Shem lived 500 more years and had other sons and daughters. At 35, Arphaxad fathered Shelah. After Shelah's birth, he lived 403 more years and had other sons and daughters. At 30, Shelah fathered Eber. After Eber's birth, Shelah lived another 403 years and had other children. At 34, Eber fathered Peleg. After Peleg's birth, Eber lived 430 more years and had other children. At 30, Peleg fathered Reu. After Reu's birth, Peleg lived 209 more years and had other children. At 32, Reu fathered Serug. After Serug's birth, Reu lived 207 more years and had other children. 30, Serug fathered Nahor. After Nahor's birth, Serug lived 200 more years and had other children. At 29, Nahor fathered Terah. After Terah's birth, Nahor lived 119 more years and had other children. At 70, Terah had 3 sons, Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Haran fathered Lot, but died before his father Terah in his native land, Ur of the Chaldeans. Abram and Nahor both married. Abram's wife was Sarai, and Nahor's wife was Milcah, daughter of Haran, who was the father of both Milcah and Iscah, but Sarai was barren. She could not have children. Terah took his son Abram, his grandson Lot, son of Haran, and Sarai, his daughter-in-law, Abram's wife, and they left Ur of the Chaldeans to go to the land of Canaan. But when they reached Haran, they settled there. Terah lived 205 years and died in Haran. Chapter 12. The Eternal said to Abram, "Leave your country, your family, and your father's household, and go to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you. All the families of the earth will be blessed through you." So Abram went, as the Eternal had told him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he left Haran. He took his wife Sarai, his nephew Lot, and all the possessions and people they had acquired in Haran, and they set out for the land of Canaan. When they arrived, they entered the land safely. Abram traveled through the land as far as Shechem, to the great tree of Moreh. At that time, the Canaanites were in the land. The Eternal appeared to Abram and said, "I will give this land to your descendants." So Abram built an altar there to the Eternal who had appeared to him. From there he went on toward the hills east of Bethel, and pitched his tent, with Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. There he built another altar and called on the name of the Eternal. Then Abram set out and continued toward the Negev. At that time, a severe famine struck the region, forcing Abram to go down to Egypt to live there for a while, because the famine was intense. As he was approaching Egypt, Abram said to his wife Sarai, "Look, you and I both know you are a beautiful woman. When the Egyptians see you, they'll say, 'This is his wife,' and they'll kill me but let you live. Please do me a favor, tell them you are my sister. That way, they'll treat me well for your sake, and my life will be spared because of you." When Abram entered Egypt, the Egyptians did indeed notice that Sarai was very beautiful. Pharaoh's officials praised her to Pharaoh, and she was taken into his palace. Because of her, Pharaoh treated Abram very well. Abram acquired sheep, cattle, donkeys, male and female servants, and camels. But the Eternal inflicted serious diseases on Pharaoh and his household because of Sarai, Abram's wife. So Pharaoh summoned Abram and said, "What have you done to me? Why didn't you tell me she was your wife? Why did you say, 'She's my sister'? So I took her to be my wife. Now here she is, take her and go." Then Pharaoh gave orders to his officials about Abram, and they sent him away with his wife and everything he owned. Chapter 13. So Abram left Egypt and went up to the Negev with his wife and everything he owned, and Lot went with him. By this time, Abram was very wealthy in livestock, silver, and gold. He traveled from place to place, from the Negev up to Bethel, to the place between Bethel and Ai, where he had previously pitched his tent. There he had built his first altar, and there Abram called on the name of the eternal Lot, who was traveling with Abram, also had flocks, herds, and tents. But the land could not support both of them living together, because their possessions were so great that they could not stay together. And so quarrels broke out between the herders of Abram's livestock and those of Lot. At that time, the Canaanites and Perizzites were also living in the land. Then Abram said to Lot, "Let's not have any conflict between you and me, or between your herders and mine, for we are close relatives. Look around you, the whole land is before you. Let's part ways. If you go to the left, I'll go to the right. If you go to the right, I'll go to the left." Lot looked around and saw that the whole plain of the Jordan was well watered, like the garden of the Eternal, like the land of Egypt all the way to Zoar. This was before the Eternal destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. So Lot chose for himself the whole plain of the Jordan and set out toward the east. Thus the two men parted ways. Abram stayed in the land of Canaan, while Lot settled among the cities of the plain and pitched his tents near Sodom. Now the people of Sodom were wicked and were sinning greatly against the Eternal. After Lot had parted from him, the Eternal said to Abram, "Look around from where you are, to the north, south, east, and west. All the land that you see I will give to you and your descendants forever. I will make your descendants like the dust of the earth, so that if anyone could count the dust, then your descendants could be counted. Go, walk through the length and breadth of the land, for I am giving it to you." So Abram moved his tents and went to live near the great trees of Mamre at Hebron, where he built an altar to the Eternal. Chapter 14. In the days of Amraphel king of Shinar, Arioch king of Elasar, Chedorlaomer king of Elam, and Tidal king of Goyim, they waged war against Bera king of Sodom, Birsha king of Gomorrah, Shinab king of Admah, Shemeba king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, that is Zoar. All these kings joined forces in the valley of Siddim, that is, the Dead Sea Valley. For 12 years they had been subject to Chedorlaomer, but in the 13th year they rebelled. In the 14th year, Chedorlaomer and the kings allied with him went out and defeated the Rephates in Ashtaroth Karnaim, the Zuzites in Ham, the Emites in Shaveh Kiriataim, and the Horites in the hill country of Seir, as far as El Paran near the wilderness. Then they turned back and went to En Mishpat, that is, Kadesh, and they conquered the entire territory of the Amalekites, as well as the Amorites who lived in Hazazon Tamar. Then the king of Sodom, the king of Gomorrah, the king of Admah, the king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, that is, Zoar, marched out and drew up battle lines in the valley of Siddim against Chedorlaomer king of Elam, Tidal king of Goyim, Amraphel king of Shinar, and Arioch king of Elasar, 4 kings against 5. Now the valley of Siddim was full of tar pits, and when the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled, some of the men fell into them, while the rest fled to the hills. The 4 kings seized all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah and all their food. Then they went away. They also captured Lot, Abram's nephew, who was living in Sodom, and carried off all his possessions. A man who had escaped came and reported this to Abram the Hebrew. Abram was living near the great trees of Mamre the Amorite, a brother of Eshcol and Aner, all of whom were allies of Abram. When Abram heard that his relative had been taken captive, he called out the 318 trained men born in his household and went in pursuit as far as Dan. During the night, Abram divided his forces and attacked them, defeating them and pursuing them as far as Hobah, north of Damascus. He recovered all the goods and brought back his relative Lot and his possessions, along with the women and the other people. After Abram returned from defeating Chedorlaomer and the kings allied with him, the king of Sodom came out to meet him in the valley of Shaveh, that is, the king's valley. Then Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought out bread and wine. He was priest of God Most High, and he blessed Abram, saying, "Blessed be Abram by God Most High, creator of heaven and earth, and praise be to God Most High, who delivered your enemies into your hand." Then Abram gave him a tenth of everything, the Yeh. King of Sodom said to Abram, "Give me the people and keep the goods for yourself." But Abram said to the king of Sodom, "I have raised my hand to the Eternal, God Most High, creator of heaven and earth, and have sworn that I will not take anything belonging to you, not even a thread or the strap of a sandal, so that you can never say, 'I made Abram rich.' I will accept only what my men have eaten, and the share that belongs to the men who went with me, to Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre. Let them take their share." Chapter 15. After these events, the word of the Eternal came to Abram in a vision. "Do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield, and your reward will be very great." But Abram replied, "Sovereign Eternal, what can you give me, since I remain childless? The heir of my household is Eliezer of Damascus." And Abram added, "You have given me no children, so a servant born in my household will be my heir." Then the word of the Eternal came to him, "This man will not be your heir. Your own biological son will be your heir." He took Abram outside and said, "Look up at the sky and count the stars, if you can count them." Then he said, "So shall your offspring be." Abram believed the Eternal, and he credited it to him as righteousness. Then the Eternal said to him, "I am the Eternal who brought you out of Ur of the Chaldeans to give you this land to possess." But Abram said, "Sovereign Eternal, how can I know that I will actually possess it?" So the Eternal said to him, "Bring me a heifer, a goat, and a ram, each 3 years old, along with a dove and a young pigeon." Abram brought all these to him, cut them in two, and arranged the halves opposite each other. However, he did not cut the birds. Then birds of prey came down on the carcasses, but Abram drove them away. As the sun was setting, Abram fell into a deep sleep, and a thick and dreadful darkness came over him. Then the Eternal said to him, "Know for certain that your descendants will be strangers in a land that is not theirs, and they will be enslaved and oppressed for 400 years. But I will punish the nation they serve as slaves, and afterward they will come out with great possessions. You, however, will go to your ancestors in peace and be buried at a good old age. In the 4th generation your descendants will return here, for the sin of the Amorites has not yet reached its full measure." When the sun had set and darkness had fallen, a smoking firepot and a blazing torch appeared and passed between the pieces. On that day, the Eternal made a covenant with Abram and said, "To your descendants I give this land, from the river of Egypt to the great river, the Euphrates, the land of the Kenites, Kenizzites, Cadmonites, Hittites, Perizzites, Rephites, Amorites, Canaanites, Girgashites, and Jebusites." Chapter 16. Now Sarai, Abram's wife, had not borne him any children. But she had an Egyptian servant named Hagar. So Sarai said to Abram, "The Eternal has kept me from having children. Go sleep with my servant. Perhaps I can build a family through her." Abram agreed to what Sarai said. So after Abram had lived 10 years in the land of Canaan, Sarai took her Egyptian servant Hagar and gave her to her husband Abram to be his wife. He slept with Hagar, and she conceived. When she realized she was pregnant, she began to despise her mistress. Then Sarai said to Abram, "You are responsible for the wrong I'm suffering. I put my servant in your arms, and now that she knows she's pregnant, she looks down on me. May the Eternal judge between you and me." Abram said, "Your servant is in your hands. Do with her whatever you think is best." Then Sarai mistreated Hagar, so she fled from her. The angel of the Eternal found Hagar near a spring in the desert. It was the spring beside the road to Shur, and he said, "Hagar, servant of Sarai, where have you come from, and where are you going?" She answered, "I'm running away from my mistress Sarai." Then the angel of the Eternal told her, "Go back to your mistress and submit to her." The angel added, "I will increase your descendants so much that they will be too numerous to count." The angel of the Eternal also said to her, "You are now pregnant, and you will give birth to a son. You shall name him Ishmael, for the Eternal has heard your misery. He will be a wild donkey of a man. His hand will be against everyone, and everyone's hand against him, and he will live in hostility toward all his brothers." Hagar gave this name to the Eternal who spoke to her. "You are the God who sees me," for she said, "I have now seen the one who sees me." That is why the well was called Beer Lahai Roi. It is still there between Kadesh and Bered. So Hagar bore Abram a son, and Abram gave the name Ishmael to the son she had born. Abram was 86 years old when Hagar bore him Ishmael. Chapter 17. When Abram was 99 years old, the Eternal appeared to him and said, "I am God Almighty. Walk before me faithfully and be blameless. Then I will make my covenant between me and you and will greatly increase your numbers." Abram fell face down, and God said to him, "As for me, this is my covenant with you. You will be the father of many nations. No longer will you be called Abram. Your name will be Abraham, for I have made you a father of many nations. I will make you very fruitful. I will make nations of you, and kings will come from you. I will establish my covenant as an everlasting covenant between me and you and your descendants after you for the generations to come, to be your God and the God of your descendants after you, the whole land of Canaan, where you now reside as a foreigner. I will give as an everlasting possession to you and your descendants after you, and I will be their God." Then God said to Abraham, "As for you, you must keep my covenant, you and your descendants after you for the generations to come. This is my covenant with you and your descendants after you, the covenant you are to keep. Every male among you shall be circumcised. You are to undergo circumcision, and it will be the sign of the covenant between me and you. For the generations to come, every male among you who is 8 days old must be circumcised, including those born in your household or bought with money from a foreigner, those who are not your offspring. Whether born in your household or bought with your money, they must be circumcised. My covenant in your flesh is to be an everlasting covenant. Any uncircumcised male who has not been circumcised in the flesh will be cut off from his people. He has broken my covenant." God also said to Abraham, "As for Sarai your wife, you are no longer to call her Sarai. Her name will be Sarah. I will bless her and will surely give you a son by her. I will bless her so that she will be the mother of nations. Kings of peoples will come from her." Abraham fell face down. He laughed and said to himself, "Will a son be born to a man 100 years old? Will Sarah bear a child at the age of 90? And Abraham said to God, "If only Ishmael might live under your blessing." Then God said, "Yes, But your wife Sarah will bear you a son, and you will call him Isaac. I will establish my covenant with him as an everlasting covenant for his descendants after him. And as for Ishmael, I have heard you. I will surely bless him. I will make him fruitful and will greatly increase his numbers. He will be the father of 12 rulers, and I will make him into a great nation. But my covenant I will establish with Isaac, whom Sarah will bear to you by this time next year." When he had finished speaking with Abraham, God went up from him. On that very day, Abraham took his son Ishmael, and all those born in his household, or bought with his money, every male in his household, and he circumcised them, as God had told him. Abraham was 99 years old when he was circumcised, and his son Ishmael was 13. Abraham and his son Ishmael were both circumcised on that same day, and every male in Abraham's household, including those born in his household, or bought from a foreigner, was circumcised with him. Chapter 18. The Eternal appeared to Abraham near the great trees of Mamre while he was sitting at the entrance to his tent during the hottest part of the day. Abraham looked up and saw 3 men standing nearby. When he saw them, he hurried from the entrance of his tent to meet them and bowed low to the ground. He said, "My Lord, if I have found favor in your eyes, please do not pass your servant by. Let a little water be brought, and then you may all wash your feet and rest under this tree. Let me get you something to eat so you can be refreshed and then go on your way, now that you have come to your servant." "Very well," they answered. "Do as you say." So Abraham hurried into the tent to Sarah. "Quick," he said, "get 3 measures of the finest flour and knead it and bake some bread." Then he ran to the herd and selected a choice, tender calf and gave it to a servant, who hurried to prepare it. He then brought some curds and milk and the calf that had been prepared and set these before them. While they ate, he stood near them under the tree. "Where is your wife Sarah?" they asked him. "There, in the tent," he said. Then one of them said, "I will surely return to you about this time next year, and Sarah your wife will have a son." Now Sarah was listening at the entrance to the tent, which was behind him. Abraham and Sarah were already very old, and Sarah was past the age of childbearing. So Sarah laughed to herself as she thought, "After I am worn out and my Lord is old, will I now have this pleasure?" Then the Eternal said to Abraham, "Why did Sarah laugh and say, 'Will I really have a child, now that I am old?' Is anything too hard for the Eternal? I will return to you at the appointed time next year, and Sarah will have a son." Sarah was afraid, so she lied and said, "I did not laugh." But he said, "Yes, you did laugh." When the men got up to leave, they looked down toward Sodom, and Abraham walked along with them to see them on their way. Then the Eternal said, "Shall I hide from Abraham what I'm about to do? Abraham will surely become a great and powerful nation, and all nations on earth will be blessed through him. For I have chosen him, so that he will direct his children and his household after him to keep the way of the Eternal by doing what is right and just, so that the Eternal will bring about for Abraham what he has promised him." Then the Eternal said, "The outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is so great, and their sin so grievous, that I will go down and see if what they have done is as bad as the outcry that has reached me. If not, I will know." The men turned away and went toward Sodom, but Abraham remained standing before the Eternal. Then Abraham approached him and said, "Will you sweep away the righteous with the wicked? What if there are 50 righteous people in the city? Will you really sweep it away and not spare the place for the sake of the 50 righteous people in it? Far be it from you to do such a thing, to kill the righteous with the wicked, treating the righteous and the wicked alike. Far be it from you. Will not the judge of all the earth do what is right?" The Eternal said, "If I find 50 righteous people in the city of Sodom, I will spare the whole place for their sake." Then Abraham spoke up again. "Now that I have been so bold as to speak to the Lord, though I am nothing but dust and ashes, what if the number of the righteous is 5, less than 50? Will you destroy the whole city for lack of 5 people? If I find 45 there," he said, "I will not destroy it." Once again he spoke to him. What if only 40 are found there? He said, For the sake of 40, I will not do it. Then he said, May the Lord not be angry, but let me speak. What if only 30 can be found there? He answered, I will not do it if I find 30 there. Abraham said, Now that I have been so bold as to speak to the Lord, what if only 20 can be found there? He said, For the sake of 20, I will not destroy it. Then he said, May the Lord not be angry, but let me speak just once more. What if only 10 can be found there? He answered, For the sake of 10, I will not destroy it. When the Eternal had finished speaking with Abraham, he left, and Abraham returned home. Chapter 19. The two angels arrived at Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting at the gateway of the city. When he saw them, he got up to meet them and bowed down with his face to the ground. My lords, he said, please turn aside to your servant's house. You can wash your feet and spend the night and then go on your way early in the morning. No, they answered, we will spend the night in the square. But Lot insisted so strongly that they went with him and entered his house. He prepared a meal for them, baking unleavened bread, and they ate. Before they had gone to bed, all the men from every part of the city of Sodom, both young and old, surrounded the house. They called to Lot, Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us so that we can have sex with them. Lot went outside to meet them and shut the door behind him and said, No, my friends, don't do this wicked thing. Look, I have 2 daughters who have never slept with a man. Let me bring them out to you, and you can do what you like with them. But don't do anything to these men, for they have come under the protection of my roof. Get out of our way, they replied. This fellow came here as a foreigner, and now he wants to play the judge. We'll treat you worse than them. They kept bringing pressure on Lot and moved forward to break down the door. But the men inside reached out and pulled Lot back into the house and shut the door. Then they struck the men who were at the door of the house, young and old, with blindness so that they could not find the door. The 2 men said to Lot, Do you have anyone else here? Sons-in-law, sons or daughters, or anyone else in the city who belongs to you? Get them out of here, because we are going to destroy this place. The outcry to the Eternal against its people is so great that he has sent us to destroy it. So Lot went out and spoke to his sons-in-law, who were pledged to marry his daughters. He said, Hurry and get out of this place because the Eternal is about to destroy the city. But his sons-in-law thought he was joking. With the coming of dawn, the angels urged Lot, saying, Hurry! Take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, or you will be swept away when the city is punished. When he hesitated, the men grasped his hand and the hands of his wife and of his 2 daughters and led them safely out of the city, for the Eternal was merciful to them. As soon as they had brought them out, one of them said, Flee for your lives. Don't look back and don't stop anywhere in the plain. Flee to the mountains, or you will be swept away. But Lot said to them, No, my lords, please. Your servant has found favor in your eyes, and you have shown great kindness to me in sparing my life. But I can't flee to the mountains. This disaster will overtake me and I'll die. Look, there is a town near enough to run to, and it is small. Let me flee to it. It is very small, isn't it? Then my life will be spared. He said to him, Very well, I will grant this request. 2, I will not overthrow the town you speak of, but flee there quickly because I cannot do anything until you reach it. That is why the town was called Zoar. By the time Lot reached Zoar, the sun had risen over the land. Then the Eternal rained down burning sulfur on Sodom and Gomorrah, from the Eternal out of the heavens. Thus he overthrew those cities and the entire plain, destroying all those living in the cities and also the vegetation in the land. But Lot's wife looked back, and she became a pillar of salt. Early the next morning, Abraham got up and returned to the place where he had stood before the Eternal. Looked down toward Sodom and Gomorrah, toward all the land of the plain, and he saw dense smoke rising from the land, like smoke from a furnace. So when God destroyed the cities of the plain, he remembered Abraham, and he brought Lot out of the catastrophe that overthrew the cities where Lot had lived. Lot and his 2 daughters left Zoar and settled in the mountains, for he was afraid to stay in Zoar. He and his 2 daughters lived in a cave. One day, the older daughter said to the younger, "Our father is old, and there is no man around here to give us children, as is the custom all over the earth. Let's get our father to drink wine and then sleep with him and preserve our family line through our father." That night, they got their father to drink wine, and the older daughter went in and slept with him. He was not aware of it when she lay down or when she got up. The next day, the older daughter said to the younger, "Last night, I slept with my father. Let's get him to drink wine again tonight, and you go in and sleep with him so we can preserve our family line through our father." So they got their father to drink wine that night also, and the younger daughter went in and slept with him. Again, he was not aware of it when she lay down or when she got up. So both of Lot's daughters became pregnant by their father. The older daughter had a son, and she named him Moab. He is the father of the Moabites of today. The younger daughter also had a son, and she named him Ben-Ami. He is the father of the Ammonites of today. Chapter 20. Now Abraham moved on from there into the region of the Negev and settled between Kadesh and Shur. For a while he stayed in Gerar, and there Abraham said of his wife Sarah, "She is my sister." So Abimelech king of Gerar sent for Sarah and took her. But God came to Abimelech in a dream one night and said to him, "You are as good as dead because of the woman you have taken. She is a married woman." Now Abimelech had not gone near her, so he said, "Lord, will you destroy an innocent nation? Did he not say to me, 'She is my sister'? And didn't she also say, 'He is my brother'? I have done this with a clear conscience and clean hands." Then God said to him in the dream, "Yes, I know you did this with a clear conscience, and so I have kept you from sinning against me. That is why I did not let you touch her. Now return the man's wife, for he is a prophet, and he will pray for you, and you will live. But if you do not return her, you may be sure that you and all who belong to you will die." Early the next morning, Abimelech summoned all his officials, and when he told them all that had happened, they were very much afraid. Then Abimelech called Abraham in and said, "What have you done to us? How have I wronged you that you have brought such great guilt upon me and my kingdom? You have done things to me that should never be done." And Abimelech asked Abraham, "What was your reason for doing this?" Abraham replied, "I said to myself, 'There is surely no fear of God in this place, and they will kill me because of my wife. Besides, she really is my sister, the daughter of my father, though not of my mother, and she became my wife. And when God had me wander from my father's household, I said to her, "This is how you can show your love to me. Everywhere we go, say of me, 'He is my brother.'" Then Abimelech brought sheep and cattle and male and female servants and gave them to Abraham, and he returned Sarah, his wife, to him. And Abimelech said, "My land is before you. Live wherever you like." To Sarah he said, "I am giving your brother 1,000 shekels of silver. This is to cover the offense against you before all who are with you. You are completely vindicated." Then Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Abimelech, his wife, and his female servants, so they could have children again, for the Eternal had kept all the women in Abimelech's household from conceiving because of Abraham's wife Sarah. Want to keep learning the Bible chapter by chapter? Subscribe now and walk through the scriptures with us, one story at a time.